and a very warm welcome to Talent in Talks, the Talent Mindset Dialogue series brought to you by the Economic Times in collaboration with LinkedIn. I'm Himanshi Tiwari, anchor and producer at the Economic Times, and I'm thrilled to set the stage for today's fireside chat where we will be exploring how organizations are reimagining talent in a rapidly changing, tech-driven world. So, as we all know, the workplace has been experiencing profound transformations, with AI and other technologies driving new strategies in talent management. Companies today are focusing less on traditional job roles and more on skills, creating a more dynamic and agile workforce. Talent is perhaps now seen as a competitive advantage and a critical driver for innovation, especially in the light of the increasing complexity of managing multi-generational teams, predicting attrition, and building strategic skills for the future. So, in this session, we are joined by two incredible leaders who are at the forefront of this transformation. Arun Gandhi, founding member of NanoNets, and Jyoti Dadlani, regional head of West India at LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Thank you for joining us today, you both. It's a pleasure to have you both with us today. I now hand it over to you, Jyoti, to take us through the discussion.
Perfect. Thanks, Himanshi. So, Arun, congratulations. It's a pleasure to have someone who's heading at the helm of an AI first company. It's been a great year for you from a 2x revenue growth perspective, working with 34% of Fortune 500 companies, your recent round of funding, more to expand, as well as focus more on agentic AI and trying to see how you can grow this company. So congratulations firstly on the eventful year that you've had, and I'm sure there's more ahead in the future to unlock. I think my first question is that we're all hearing about AI, right? AI is transforming the world of work, every job, every company, every team. And it's kind of changing how everything will sort of look like in the next 5 to 10 years. So as you think about this AI changing the world of work, what does talent mindset mean in this newer scheme of things?
The AI moment happening doesn't change the fact that you still need like good talent in order to build a company, right? The fact that the leading like AI company in the world right now, which is OpenAI, became leading because of the fact that they could hire and source the best talent means everything, right? So I mean, they could not have been where they are, without hiring some of the top AI talent in the world. So it means everything to us, the fact that, and it's still like top control where everybody, that we hire at the company needs a yes from, one of the senior leadership. And we have a very rigorous interview process in order to, join NanoNets. And it's something that, we've refined over the last few years. But yeah, I mean, if you put, like, it's one of the hiring and retaining talent is probably like the top mandate.
Yeah. And is that evolved? Like, I know that from in the last 7 to 8 years, have you seen this evolve? Like, how has this evolved for an organization? Have you seen this evolve as you're having conversations with customer? How are organizations really focusing on nurturing this talent mindset?
I've seen a big shift in like tech hiring in India in the last 7-8 years, where people have started to realize that this market is super competitive, and treating people well and fair is super important. People would leave you at the drop of the hat. People would join another company at the drop of a hat. So hiring and then, doing everything you can in order to retain top tech talent has become super important. India has sort of now become a global market where you no longer need to sort of work for an Indian company. You can work remotely for any company. Like I know people who work for a company in South Africa. I know somebody who works for a company in Australia. So now you're no longer limited to the jobs available in India, but also like you can pretty much work anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And that has been sort of a big shift in the last 7, 8 years, especially compounded, by COVID. So you could tell somebody that they're not, doing a good job and be like really like behave really poorly with them, and you'll see them, leave much faster than
Yeah.
you probably did 7 years back.
But how are you looking at, the kind of the way the market's growing? What could be that gap, and how could you kind of look at bringing in insights to unlock opportunities to bring in the right talent?
So we are still, so just to give you an idea, we're only about 100 people right now. Because of the pace of hiring, I think we still have like our feet on the ground. So what we do is we have these um, buckets of roles that we hire for, and we know what the top, you know, competition for us would be. So like if you're hiring a software engineer in India, or if you're hiring an account executive in the US, what would be, our top competitors? And we then sort of have like understanding through like informal processes about, what are these people paying? Because in order to attract the top talent, you also need to, give the top compensation. And so having an idea on what the market is paying is super important. I don't think, you can ignore that. You can't live in a bubble there. And I think tools like LinkedIn have, been super helpful in understanding how competitive a role in, certain geography would be. Like, for example, I remember while hiring an account executive, we opened the job in San Francisco, and we also opened the job in Austin, Texas, and we clearly knew the fact that it's way less competitive in Austin, Texas to hire an account executive than it's in San Francisco. And being a remote sort of hybrid company, like we particularly, if we find the right talent, the geography does not matter.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it's been also super important to be updated about the latest research that's happening, and to then understand the people who are working on it, because there's active research happening in the products that we're building. So keeping a tab on the kind of research and the research papers that are being pulled out. And we typically have like questions within our interview process to see how abreast people are of some of these things. And we don't like people living inside a bubble. We like people who are are updated on the latest research that's being pushed out there.
And what's the approach? Is there a proactive pipeline? I know you did a lot of it's great to see the insights in terms of understanding those talent pools and who's the right competition, and even thinking about compensation. But is there an opportunity, like, is there a process you have currently in place to kind of proactively pipeline?
Pushing great content out around what we are building, and actively showing the fact that this is what is the real life impact on some of what we are building, helps us stay within the mind share of people. Also, like, not just like customer stories, but also publishing like deeply technical content that might help, let's say if you're an engineering student and if you're working in deep learning, there's a very high chance that you would have interacted with one of our blogs, right? And you might have already heard about NanoNets. So investing some of our energy there has been super helpful in attracting the talent.
Is there something that you're working on to kind of distinguish yourself? I know there's a lot definitely on your website, but is there something that's readily available or you're doing on social platforms to kind of distinguish yourself in a competitive marketplace? or even establish like a strong share of voice, right? As from a culture perspective, some of the great stuff that you're already doing and providing, you've already said that, right? Like remote work and, investment in people. So is there a conscious strategy to kind of put that share of voice and sort of distinguish yourself specifically as, a great employer to work for?
At the very start of the company, right, we understood the fact that people join startups not for the money, but for the mission.
Yeah.
A change that happened in India in the last 20 years is the fact that if you're a knowledge worker, if you are especially in tech, finding a job is not going to be very difficult, right? Especially if you're good, right? And that's the kind of people we're talking about. We've had people who we made a delay in giving a job offer, and they already had like 6 within like maybe the peak of COVID. So we wrote these really deep technical blogs at the start, and the founders wrote them in order to show some of what we are building.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that it might sort of even reap benefits, but we've hired a lot of people since then who told me that, hey, I read this blog of yours and it got me really interested, or I read that blog of Sarthak, that got me super interested. I remember this blog that we had written. It was called Deep Learning with Limited Data. The kind of eyeballs it got was like it was insane. Especially at the time when the major dialogue was, how do you even have the data to train your models? There was like a majority of the conversation that's happening that, hey, AI exists, but it just needs like a crazy amount of training data in order to make it work. And we wrote this blog on how NanoNets is solving for this.
Yeah.
But it also, spoke about the technical, nature of the problem. On why does it even exist? So understanding the fact that, okay, these are things that people are talking about, and then churning great content about your mission has been very helpful. Again, OpenAI comes to mind, where the fact that it became what it is by attracting talent from all the other tech companies was primarily because of their mission, that how do you make an open world where AI is in the hands of everybody. Attracted a lot of great talent.
How does intergenerational workforce, the fact that it's cross-country culture, as well as the fact that that different people might be in different, it's a fairly new concept. So as you said, right, you're hiring people with ancillary skills. So how do you kind of tweak this whole learning initiative? And I know feedback's a great start, but what are you kind of proactively thinking of as you think of this just diverse use cases from a learning perspective?
So having run a very local workforce to now a very global workforce, I think the need and want to learn is almost the same, right? A deep learning researcher in the US and a deep learning researcher in India are consuming the same content online, are curious about the same things, and it's almost like they are in sync, right? Because everybody's consuming the same information. We were worried about having a very different team as we started scaling our global hiring for managing learning and development, but we don't need to. I think it's pretty much central. We realize the fact that everybody wants to learn, everybody's consuming the same information. So the global aspect of it has not had a very deep impact. What has been great is the peer learning aspect from a global perspective, where there are cultural practices within certain countries which other people learn about. Having very high professional standards, like deep clarity about your work, very high, communication standards. Um, or, like getting, things done, that attitude. Um, People, have sort of learned from it.
Yeah.
And there's sort of this cross-cultural learning that happens, and especially it's more in like a very small team like us, where there's almost like daily interaction between people from different countries.
We are starting to see a lot of people want to be invested in and want to kind of think about mobility within the company, doing different things within the company, moving into different roles, or finding those opportunities to do more, right? As you said, that people, you hire smart people, you enable them, and then they want to do more things. So how are you seeing, as you said, right, like their skills are also evolving, and you're investing in learning. How are you seeing kind of this pan out as you think of career paths of people within the company?
We've had software engineers who transitioned to product managers. We've had product managers who transitioned to software engineering. So there's no one set path. But once you build the culture that, I've had employees who've been with the company for about a month and, want to change role. And I'm like, you need to first establish the fact that you're good at what you do. And I think we can then facilitate the route that you want, right? So having an open culture about the fact that once you identify somebody good, and it's not when you hire, it takes time, for them to sort of establish that credibility.
Yeah.
And having that culture about the fact that, okay, I know, you're good at this. I can take a bet on, that, you can be good at this, is super important. And some of these bets have, played out really well for us. The
Yeah.
downside of it is very low, but the upside of it is very high. So having that, open mindset is super important. It's a very common interview question about, like, where do you think this career path goes if you hire me? And I'm like, it's up to you. I see some of these things in the future, but we can carve out a path based on what you want. And that's a great thing about joining a startup, I feel,
Yeah.
where there is no one set, career path. You can choose and, do things
Yeah.
as per your skill set. That being said, it's not, it's not like a wild, wild west where anything is happening. So once you establish the fact that you can do well, I think the conversation can then happen.
Yeah. How are you seeing that evolve? Like, as you've also grown. So as you grow into the next phase, or as you kind of hire more people, how do you see that evolve? Like, what do you think is the opportunity to do something more structured, or how does it evolve from a, investment or, learning to career? Does that evolve as, the company grows and as you've hired more people and as you continue to hire more people? How does it evolve?
The first 15 people were all doing mission critical tasks where
Yeah.
there was zero backup for
Yeah.
anything, right? If
Mm.
if somebody leaves, I would have to, do their job. And, I have done that. Once you start growing, right, while the job is mission critical, you almost always are in a team where somebody, can, pick it up.
Yeah.
Um, so this becomes slightly easier, where if you want to, move into another team, or, you want to take some time to, try something, this conversation becomes easier if we believe, that you have demonstrated enough to, do that next role. And as the company grows, right, you sort of have these broad problems that you don't know how to solve. So you put somebody, to solve that problem.
Which is a very interesting perspective, right? As we are saying that skills are evolving, jobs are evolving, definitely an opportunity for newer roles. Some of the roles that we are seeing now didn't exist, right? 20 years ago, we are talking about AI, machine learning. Nobody imagined that 10 years ago that this was going to become a very hot field. We're seeing that with even sustainability. We're seeing that with even, as we're looking at LinkedIn data, we're seeing that with diversity, inclusion, belonging. So I think lots of emerging skills, which means emerging roles coming up. I know we touched upon this a little bit, that, in Indian tech talent is, playing a very huge role. We said 92% of people are AI upskilling already, and we're seeing Indian talent really kind of leading the global AI innovation and change there. I think this one's a little open-ended, right? How can India, I think, as a country, harness this potential to lead this this transformation or this AI change or this AI first thinking that we're looking at?
So I mean, it's very funny. I remember, when I went to the US for the first time. I've been working in Sunnyvale, which is where Google's offices are.
LinkedIn too.
Yeah, and it's almost like working in a mini India where you have all your like restaurants that you eat at here having like a branch there as well. You go to the park there, and people are playing cricket, and it's this exact same talent that sits in India, has just gone there. It's not the lack of the skill sets that are being developed in India. And um I see this as a big shift in the next few years, where a lot of these jobs will now come to India and happen in India. And I think it's already happening. A lot of like IP getting built out of India. So I think we're already on that journey, right? It's not something that is yet to start. A lot of people are now choosing to stay back in India rather than go abroad.
It's exciting times for your company, and it's exciting, the kind of growth you've seen in the last 7 to 8 years has been exciting. So what's your message to, the audience and fellow entrepreneurs on this journey, different stages of it, probably people even thinking of starting up companies? What's your message to all of them?
The one thing, I tell like fellow like entrepreneurs is to just like show up every day. You might have had a pretty crappy day yesterday, but tomorrow's a new day. So just showing up and like solving problems. It sort of has this magical incremental effect where like lo and behold, you're like suddenly making $1 million in revenue. You just need to show up and solve problems. The day you stop showing up with all your energy is when things will start to go wrong.
That's a really authentic and I think simple message. So thank you for sharing that.
Wonderful. All right, thank you. So as we come close of this insightful conversation, it's clear that talent is just not a function, but a strategic asset in today's business landscape. We've heard Arun Gandhi and Jyoti Dadlani highlight how AI, data, and a skills-focused approach are reshaping the future of work. Arun also spoke about moving from local to a global workforce, from building robust talent pipelines to creating learning and development programs that empower growth. The message is clear. Success lies in fostering a strong talent mindset. The world of work is changing, and organizations that adapt with agility, innovation, and purpose will not only survive but thrive. And as Jyoti mentioned, AI is not the future, it is the present. So thank you, Arun and Jyoti, for your valuable insights. And thank you to our lovely audiences for joining us. This is just the beginning of the conversation. And we look forward to exploring more on this evolving journey of talent transformation.